Have you started noticing more hair on your pillow in the morning, or catching a glimpse of your scalp in the mirror and wondering when that changed? It can feel sudden, even unsettling. But here's the truth: most people never hear clearly enough. For many adults over 50, hair thinning is not a dramatic overnight event. It's a quiet, gradual biological shift that has been unfolding for years, and understanding that changes everything. Before we go further, take a moment to share your age and the country you're watching from in the comments. It helps me understand who I'm guiding and reminds you that you're not alone in this. Many seniors experience progressive thinning, and while it may feel alarming, it is often part of natural aging physiology. Each strand of hair grows from a follicle that follows a repeating cycle. There is a growth phase, a transition phase, and a resting phase before the hair sheds and a new one begins. According to the National Institutes of Health, as we age, the active growth phase known as anagen can gradually shorten. That means hair doesn't grow as long or as thick as it once did. At the same time, follicles themselves can shrink, a process sometimes called miniaturization, producing finer strands over time. This shift is rarely dramatic. It is influenced by genetics, hormonal sensitivity, circulation patterns, nutritional intake, stress exposure, and overall scalp condition. The Mayo Clinic explains that age-related thinning, often referred to as androgenic alopecia or pattern hair loss, affects both men and women. It usually presents as gradual thinning rather than sudden bald patches, and it tends to follow patterns influenced by family history and hormone responsiveness. Hormones play a central role in this process. As the body ages, hormone levels fluctuate, and tissues respond differently than they did in youth. Harvard Health Publishing discusses how hair follicles are particularly sensitive to hormonal signals. In women, postmenopausal transitions can influence density. In men, long-term sensitivity to certain androgens contributes to progressive thinning. These changes are part of normal physiology, not necessarily signs of disease. Circulation is another important factor. Hair follicles depend on small blood vessels in the scalp to deliver oxygen and nutrients. Over time, subtle changes in vascular flexibility and activity levels can influence how efficiently that support reaches the follicles. Resources from the Cleveland Clinic explain that circulation can shift gradually with age. This does not usually mean blockage or severe vascular problems. Instead, it reflects slow changes in microcirculation that accumulate over years. Then there is the scalp itself. The scalp is skin, and like all skin, it can become dry, irritated, or inflamed. The NHS notes that inflammatory conditions, chronic dryness, or buildup from heavy hair products can influence shedding and breakage. Many people focus only on shampoo formulas while ignoring scalp health entirely. But if the scalp environment is stressed, follicles may struggle. Stress adds another layer. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention highlights the importance of sleep in tissue repair. During deep sleep, the body shifts into restorative phases. Hair follicles are living structures embedded in the scalp, and they benefit from those nightly repair cycles. When sleep is fragmented or stress remains elevated, cortisol levels may interfere with normal hair cycling. Medical literature describes a condition called telogen effluvium, where stress pushes more hairs into the resting phase, leading to increased shedding. It is often temporary, but repeated stress can prolong patterns of thinning. Nutrition cannot be ignored either. Hair strands are primarily made of keratin, a protein. Consistent protein intake supports structural integrity. Deficiencies in iron and certain vitamins have also been associated with thinning in some individuals. This does not mean extreme diets or excessive supplements are necessary. It simply reinforces that balanced meals matter. Understanding all of this shifts the conversation from panic to perspective. Hair thinning after 50 is rarely caused by one single problem. It reflects gradual biological adjustments that develop over decades. And when you begin to see it that way, you can move from fear toward informed, steady action. What can you realistically do to support your scalp environment in a safe and thoughtful way? That's where the conversation often turns toward natural topical care, and one name comes up again and again: rosemary oil. But before assumptions take over, let's approach this calmly and intelligently. Rosemary oil is not a miracle cure. It does not force hair to grow overnight. What it may do when used properly is support the environment in which hair follicles already function. Interest in rosemary oil has grown partly because of discussions within scientific literature indexed on PubMed, where researchers have explored its potential relationship with circulation and scalp health. Certain plant compounds found in rosemary, including antioxidant elements such as rosmarinic acid, have drawn attention for their biological activity. The key idea here is not stimulation in a dramatic sense. It is support. Hair follicles are living structures. Like any active tissue, they depend on oxygen, nutrients, and a balanced surface environment. General dermatology guidance from institutions such as the Mayo Clinic and the Cleveland Clinic consistently emphasizes 3 pillars for follicle health: adequate blood flow, minimal inflammation, and proper scalp condition. When circulation is gently encouraged, often through massage rather than aggressive treatment, the delivery of nutrients may be supported. Think of it like watering soil. You are not forcing the plant to grow, you are maintaining conditions that allow it to function as designed. Some smaller clinical comparisons referenced in medical databases have examined rosemary oil alongside conventional topical approaches for pattern thinning. While results vary and more large-scale research is still needed, certain findings suggest that rosemary oil may offer supportive effects over time in specific contexts. However, the National Institutes of Health reminds us that natural products can have real biological activity, and that means they must be used carefully. Essential oils are highly concentrated extracts. Applying them directly to the scalp without dilution can cause irritation, especially in older adults whose skin may be thinner or more sensitive. Proper dilution in a carrier oil is essential. A small patch test before broader use is also recommended. Educational discussions about rosemary oil are meant to highlight supportive habits, not replace professional evaluation for persistent or severe hair loss. One reason rosemary oil remains part of this conversation is its association with circulation. As discussed by Harvard Health Publishing, overall cardiovascular health influences peripheral blood flow, including the tiny vessels that supply the scalp. While rosemary oil cannot replace exercise, balanced nutrition, or stress management, combining diluted oil with gentle scalp massage may temporarily increase local blood flow through mechanical stimulation. That mechanical action itself plays a meaningful role. Inflammation is another factor. Chronic low-level irritation can influence comfort and hair appearance. The NHS highlights the importance of maintaining a healthy skin barrier. Antioxidant compounds in rosemary are often discussed in the context of oxidative stress, which broader dermatological research associates with aging processes in skin tissues. Again, this is not about curing inflammatory disorders. It is about supporting a calmer surface environment. However, common mistakes limit potential benefit. Using excessive oil can clog pores or create buildup. Expecting visible change within days leads to frustration. Hair growth cycles unfold over months, not weeks. The Mayo Clinic explains that noticeable shifts in density typically require sustained, consistent care. Intensity does not equal effectiveness. Consistency does. Applying oil to an excessively dirty scalp can also trap debris or residue. A relatively clean surface allows for better balance. Simplicity matters. Overcomplicating routines often creates irritation rather than improvement. But here is where this becomes even more interesting. Topical care alone is never the full story. Because while rosemary oil may help support the external environment of the scalp, hair follicles respond just as strongly, if not more, to what is happening internally. And that brings us directly to something many people underestimate completely: nighttime biology. Because if there is one window of time when your body shifts into deep repair mode, it happens while you are asleep. And what happens during those hours may influence far more than you realize. Nighttime is not just the end of your day. It is a biological reset period. During deep sleep, your body redirects energy away from movement and decision-making and toward repair, hormone balance, and cellular maintenance. And hair follicles, though often overlooked, are living, metabolically active structures that depend on that restoration cycle. Research discussed by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and the National Institutes of Health shows that deep sleep supports tissue repair throughout the body. Growth hormone secretion increases at night, assisting with maintenance and rebuilding processes. While the hair shaft you see is made of keratin and is no longer alive, once it leaves the scalp, the follicle beneath the surface is very much alive. It responds to hormonal rhythms, circulation patterns, and stress chemistry. Cortisol, often called the stress hormone, follows a daily rhythm. According to Harvard Health Publishing, cortisol levels are naturally lower at night when the body prepares for sleep. But chronic stress, irregular sleep schedules, and constant stimulation can disrupt this pattern. When cortisol remains elevated for extended periods, it may interfere with normal hair cycling. Medical literature describes how physical or emotional strain can push more follicles into the resting phase, increasing shedding. This condition, known as telogen effluvium, is often temporary. However, repeated stress cycles can prevent the growth rhythm from fully stabilizing. Melatonin is another key nighttime hormone. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention emphasizes limiting bright light exposure before bed because excessive artificial light can suppress melatonin production. While melatonin is widely recognized for regulating sleep, research indexed in dermatological discussions suggests it may also interact with hair follicle biology. The connection is still being studied, but the broader principle is clear. Circadian rhythms influence multiple tissues, including the scalp. Circulation patterns also shift during rest. When the body is lying down and relaxed, blood flow distribution changes compared to when standing or under stress. The Cleveland Clinic explains that relaxation supports vascular function. Gentle scalp massage before bed may temporarily increase local blood flow through mechanical stimulation, and performing this ritual at night allows the scalp to remain undisturbed for several hours afterward. No tight hairstyles, no environmental exposure, just a calm window for recovery. Yet many people unknowingly sabotage this advantage, staying up late under bright screens, eating heavy meals close to bedtime, or engaging in stimulating activities fragment sleep quality. The Mayo Clinic notes that consistent sleep and wake times strengthen circadian alignment. Another common mistake is tying hair tightly overnight, creating tension on already sensitive follicles. Traction, stress, repeated over time, can worsen thinning in vulnerable areas. Nighttime rituals also offer psychological benefits. Establishing a predictable wind-down routine signals safety to the nervous system. Slow breathing, gentle stretching, or quiet reflection lowers stress signals that might otherwise influence hormone balance. When the nervous system settles, cortisol rhythms stabilize more effectively. And this is where the bigger picture becomes clear. Oil alone does not determine hair density. Shampoo alone does not solve thinning. Hair follicles respond to the entire internal environment of the body. Sleep quality, stress chemistry, circulation, and nutrient delivery all intersect during those quiet hours of rest. If nighttime is your repair window, then what you fuel your body with during the day becomes the foundation for that repair, because follicles cannot rebuild without raw materials. And that leads directly to the next critical piece of this puzzle: nutrition, movement, and the internal building blocks that support hair from within. If nighttime is your repair window, then what you fuel your body with during the day becomes the foundation for that repair. Because hair follicles cannot rebuild without raw materials. They are not isolated structures operating on their own. They depend on the same bloodstream, the same nutrient supply, and the same metabolic balance that supports every other tissue in your body. Hair strands are composed primarily of keratin, a structural protein. According to Harvard Health Publishing, adequate protein intake is foundational for maintaining normal hair structure. As people age, appetite patterns can change. Some individuals unintentionally reduce protein consumption due to smaller meals or restrictive diets. Over time, insufficient intake may influence hair strength and resilience. This does not mean extreme high-protein regimens are necessary. It means balanced meals that include consistent, quality protein sources support the body's natural rebuilding processes, including those occurring within hair follicles. Iron is another nutrient frequently discussed in relation to thinning. The National Institutes of Health explains that iron plays a central role in oxygen transport through hemoglobin. Because follicles are metabolically active and require oxygen to function efficiently, low iron levels may contribute to increased shedding in some individuals. Both the NHS and the Mayo Clinic acknowledge that iron deficiency has been associated with hair thinning, particularly among women. However, reputable institutions consistently caution against self-prescribing high-dose supplements without testing. Excessive supplementation can create imbalances that cause other complications. A food-first approach emphasizing varied whole foods provides steadier support. Zinc and certain vitamins also contribute to normal cell turnover and tissue maintenance. But again, balance is key. The goal is not to chase single nutrients in isolation. It is to maintain an overall pattern of nourishment that consistently supplies follicles with what they require. Hydration is often overlooked in this conversation. The scalp is an extension of the skin, and skin health depends on fluid balance. The Cleveland Clinic emphasizes that dry, irritated skin can affect comfort and appearance. While drinking water does not directly grow hair, maintaining hydration supports overall skin integrity and circulation. When combined with gentle topical care, hydration contributes to a more stable scalp environment. Physical movement also plays a meaningful role. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention highlights that regular moderate exercise supports cardiovascular health by improving blood flow and vascular flexibility. Since follicles rely on small blood vessels in the scalp, systemic circulation influences how effectively oxygen and nutrients reach these structures. Even low-impact activities such as walking, stretching, or light resistance training can support circulation without overwhelming the body. Movement also reduces stress hormones over time, and stress chemistry, as we discussed earlier, influences hair cycling. The National Institutes of Health describes telogen effluvium as a stress-related shift where more follicles enter the resting phase. Chronic stress, poor sleep, or significant life transitions can amplify this response. Practices that lower physiological stress, consistent routines, breathing exercises, moderate exercise help stabilize internal rhythms over months rather than days. Common mistakes often undermine these supportive habits. Skipping meals, relying heavily on processed foods, or following extreme dieting patterns deprives follicles of steady nourishment. Overtraining without adequate recovery may increase physical stress instead of reducing it. Another frequent error is focusing entirely on topical solutions while neglecting internal health. What tends to work better is integration, balanced nutrition, regular gentle movement, restorative sleep, thoughtful scalp care. When these elements align, topical rituals like diluted rosemary oil massage become part of a larger system rather than a standalone solution. Hair reflects cumulative patterns. It responds to what you do consistently, not occasionally. And that brings us to something equally important: how you apply these practices safely and sustainably over time without unintentionally creating new problems while trying to solve old ones. Hair reflects cumulative patterns. It responds to what you do consistently, not occasionally. And that brings us to something equally important: how you apply these practices safely and sustainably over time without unintentionally creating new problems while trying to solve old ones. Because in the search for improvement, many people unknowingly irritate the very scalp they are trying to protect. Before beginning any topical routine, especially one involving essential oils, safety must come first. Essential oils like rosemary oil are highly concentrated plant extracts. The National Institutes of Health makes it clear that natural does not automatically mean harmless. These oils contain active compounds that can irritate the skin if misused. Dermatology guidance from the Mayo Clinic and the Cleveland Clinic consistently advises diluting essential oils in a carrier oil before applying them to the scalp. A small patch test on the skin can help check for sensitivity before broader use. This step is especially important for older adults, as aging skin may be thinner and more reactive. Anyone with diagnosed scalp conditions, allergies, or ongoing medical concerns should consult a qualified healthcare professional before starting a new topical regimen. Educational information is meant to guide lifestyle awareness, not replace personalized medical advice. Persistent, sudden, or severe hair loss always deserves proper evaluation. Consistency is another principle that is often misunderstood. According to Harvard Health Publishing, hair growth occurs gradually over months. Each follicle cycles independently through growth, transition, and rest phases. Because of this slow biological rhythm, visible changes require patience. A common mistake is expecting dramatic improvement within 2 or 3 weeks and abandoning the routine when that does not happen. The Mayo Clinic explains that most hair-related interventions, whether lifestyle-based or medical, require sustained, consistent application before measurable changes appear. Hair responds to cumulative care, not short bursts of effort. Another frequent error is layering too many strong treatments at once. Some individuals combine multiple essential oils, medicated shampoos, chemical treatments, and aggressive exfoliation, believing intensity will accelerate results. However, dermatology resources from the Cleveland Clinic caution that overtreating the scalp can disrupt its protective barrier. This may lead to dryness, irritation, and inflammation conditions that counteract the supportive environment you are trying to build. Mechanical stress also plays a significant role. Tight hairstyles, aggressive brushing, or excessive heat styling can weaken already delicate strands. The NHS notes that minimizing tension on hair shafts helps preserve structural integrity. When incorporating a nighttime oil ritual, allowing the hair to remain loose and free of tight ties reduces unnecessary traction on follicles. Sustainability matters just as much as safety. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention emphasizes that long-term health habits are more effective when they are realistic and integrated into daily life. Scalp care should not feel like a temporary rescue mission. It should become part of a broader wellness rhythm that includes balanced meals, movement, quality, sleep, and stress awareness. When routines are simple and repeatable, adherence improves. When they are extreme and complicated, they rarely last. A diluted rosemary oil massage performed gently a few times per week, combined with supportive internal habits, is far more sustainable than aggressive daily treatments. And perhaps most importantly, expectations must remain realistic. Aging naturally brings changes to hair texture and density. Supportive habits can maintain a healthier scalp environment, but they do not completely reverse biological aging. The goal is maintenance and optimization, not perfection. Which brings us to the final and most important mindset shift of all, understanding what you can control, what you cannot, and how to move forward with clarity instead of fear. Which brings us to the final and most important mindset shift of all, understanding what you can control, what you cannot, and how to move forward with clarity instead of fear. Hair thinning after 50 is often interpreted as something going wrong, but in many cases it reflects biology doing what biology does over time. The difference between feeling powerless and feeling proactive lies in understanding the process and responding intelligently. Aging influences hormone sensitivity, circulation patterns, and cellular turnover. The National Institutes of Health explains that follicles naturally shift through slower and shorter growth phases as we get older. The Mayo Clinic reinforces that pattern thinning is common in both men and women and tends to follow gradual, predictable trends. When you recognize that this is a long-term biological transition rather than a sudden malfunction, the panic begins to fade. You cannot completely stop time, but you can support the environment in which your follicles operate. You can protect sleep quality so nighttime repair cycles function properly, as emphasized by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. You can stabilize stress chemistry through consistent routines, breathing practices, and moderate physical activity. You can nourish your body with balanced meals that provide protein, iron, and other essential nutrients discussed by Harvard Health Publishing and the NHS. You can move your body regularly to support circulation, as highlighted in cardiovascular guidance from the Cleveland Clinic. And if you choose to incorporate rosemary oil into your routine, you can do so safely and patiently, diluted properly, patch-tested, and combined with gentle scalp massage. Not as a miracle solution, but as one supportive element within a larger system of care. Remember, the purpose of massage is not to aggressively stimulate, but to encourage blood flow and maintain scalp comfort. Subtle, steady action over months is more aligned with how hair biology actually works. It is also important to stay attentive. Sudden or extreme hair loss, scalp pain, patchy bald spots, or other concerning symptoms always deserve professional evaluation. Lifestyle education is valuable, but it does not replace personalized medical assessment. Responsible care means knowing when to seek guidance. The deeper lesson here is that hair health mirrors whole body health. Follicles respond to cumulative patterns, sleep habits, nutritional consistency, emotional balance, and daily mechanical stress. When these patterns improve, the scalp environment often stabilizes. That does not guarantee dramatic transformation, but it does create conditions that align with the body's natural rhythms. Fear tends to push people toward quick fixes. Patience leads to sustainable habits. The science consistently points toward moderation, consistency, and integration rather than extremes. Hair thinning is rarely about one single cause, and improvement is rarely about one single product. It is about the combined effect of steady choices repeated over time. If this conversation helped you understand your hair differently, if it replaced worry with clarity, then take the next step. Share your age and country in the comments so we can build a community of people learning together. If you found value here, like this video, subscribe for more science-based wellness insights, and share it with someone who may be quietly concerned about their hair but hasn't talked about it yet. Your small action today could help someone else move from confusion to confidence.